Hello and welcome to the Human Echoes recap for Legion Season 1, Episode 4, Chapter 4. And once again, we start off real strong. This episode kicks off with a bizarre little monologue from actor Jermaine Clement. I don't know how you say his name. Point being, he's a great guy. He's been in a lot of cool stuff. He was in the What We Do in the Shadows movie, probably most popularly. He does a great silly accent. Not in this one, unfortunately. But he was also in Flight of the Conchords. You'll probably know him from that if you know him from anywhere. And he gives us this weird bit of, not exposition exactly, I would say more ideas. Right, he's just sort of spouting out these ideas, and it's interesting how he delivers this because it's not this. I mean, I'm sure he rehearsed. Okay, I'm sure that the actor did rehearse his lines, but the way he delivers this doesn't feel like someone who knows what he's saying. It feels like someone who's on camera trying to think of the right words. He does a couple of stumbles. He's like, well, no, let's go back. Let's say a quote. Let's do, and I that delivery was really interesting. What's more interesting is how the show just drops you into this bizarre, odd ice sculpture palace kind of world with this guy talking to you and doesn't give you any explanation. I'm watching this with my wife yesterday and she's like, wait, who's that guy? Should I know who he is? Like, is this the start of the show or is this like an ad or some other thing ahead of the show? Just to drop you in to something that you've never seen before, a person you've never seen before, in a setting that makes no sense where they're just talking to you as the audience like I'm talking to you is, I mean, we've used the word bonkers before many times in this recap, but the Legion continues to take major chances and do crazy weird stuff. The meat of what he has to say here is he talks about, first of all, he mentions that we're the root of our own problems. I believe that's an exact quote. That's what I wrote down. Close to that. He talks about how that we create our own demons. We create our own enemies and our own, ultimately, that violence is an act of self-sabotage against the self. That's how self-sabotage works. Anyway, he talks about that, which you guys know I've been on this. Everything is sort of a mind trip game. I think that plays in very heavily to that. A lot more stuff in this episode gives us more evidence of that. But here he is. He's expositing that. He also talks about these two different kinds of stories, right? He says you tell your kids two different kinds of stories. You tell one story to make them happy and feel good about themselves and learn empathy, right? It's about the happy little bunny who went off and faced something scary but learned a lesson and wasn't that wonderful. And you tell other stories to scare your kids. Hey, this is like a bad thing. Don't go near it. And I think this is maybe at the root of where we're getting some of this stuff like the world's angriest boy in the world. Because obviously, this is probably not a real thing. Like, it's not even in the actual David Haller's world. This book probably didn't exist so much, but it is an artifact of him telling himself a story about how badly things can go wrong, about what happens if you lose control and let anger take over, and you'll kill people. You know, the world's angriest boy in the world is about a little boy who kills his mom. And I know there's a lot of people out there who think that actually happened. And it may have. All right, David may have actually killed his mom. And this is a repressed memory that's bubbling up as this book that he's reading. However, even if that's true, I think it also serves the purpose within his mind of standing as a signpost saying, hey, there's a reason we keep all this stuff locked up. There's a reason we keep everything so segregated and everything so weird. You can't just let go and be who you are. However, there's people in this show who are really trying to get him to let go and be who he is. I think they might be disappointed, but they are the next part of the story that we get to after we get our wonderful little opening monologue done from Jermaine Clement, which, by the way, I believe all one shot. Really beautifully done, like pans out, pans back in, pans out, pans back in. I don't know exactly what that was about, except for the great movement for the camera, but I thought that was like, we've got like kind of a pendulum thing going here. We cut to Sid and the other two from the Summerland place that I don't remember their names. I looked up the black guy's name, but it was weird. I'm calling him the memory doctor still. They're going to interview people that David knew, and they start off with his ex-girlfriend, who is now a realtor. But before they do that, they acknowledge what I've been looking at in the show all along, is that we don't know what's real. We can't 100% say for sure what is real and what's not. And they are meaning it in reference to David's memories, right? They are meaning it in the sense that they went inside David's memories, they saw things that should have been real, but that they can't trust because, I mean, obviously there's a yellow-eyed demon and walls breaking open and, David eating a bunch of tapes, possibly literally, as we find out in this episode. And so we get this little more hint that things that as we are seeing them are not as they are. We also get exposition from the lady who runs Summerland that David can create an entire reality in his mind. And they're using this to explain why he won't wake up. Again, these aren't, we can't like drop any of these bombs as saying 100% we're in a hallucination, Inception type thing, but it really feels like that they're setting up the possibility of that, because she says David can create realities. Later on, we do see David in one of these created realities, but even Sid, being genre savvy enough to know what kind of show she's in, says, are we sure this is real? Are we sure that what we're experiencing right now is real? And she sees stuff that can't be real. In this episode, she sees the world's angriest boy in the world, the physical manifestation. I would still not put it past Noah Hawley to have an actual person running around in this show wearing a papier-mâché mask, like suddenly turn into a character, if there is a real world component at all, which I'm starting to doubt. But I'm about 90% sure that that's a huge signpost telling everybody, listen, something's going on here. A lot of this is fabricated or made up inside of David's mind. And we get a lot of that. You cut back to David's sister in the cell. She talks to his doctor. Very interesting setup for these cells. I don't know. Everything in this show seems to have a reason, right? There's purpose behind almost every shot. And I don't fully understand what the reason behind how these cells are set up is, but I don't think it's completely nonsensical. There's the big slope in the cell, which sort of makes you feel like there's something off center. They're back to back. They've got the glass wall. They can be seen. Interestingly enough, and this might play into things for future theories. The two people who are talking to each other can't see each other, but we can see them, and the people guarding them can see them. We see some of the blackface guard, not blackface, but like their faces are covered in black masks and stuff. The guards walking by in front of them, they're not able to see each other, but everybody else can see them. It's split apart, but together. I don't fully get that. There is, though, the big bombshell here, and again, layering on these ideas of what David is capable of and what he can build in his mind. The doctor says, hey, he talked about this dog a lot. He mentioned it, and it was part of, his fixation. And we've seen this dog in flashbacks before. And now the sister reveals to us, oh, hey, there wasn't a dog. That was made up. Like, the dog was made up, guys. The dog. All right, forget about the yellow-eyed demon and the world's angriest boy in the world and like the mutants with superpowers that are living inside David's mind. All of that stuff you can believe in, but the dog he made up, that was unexpected and interesting. It was because I'm already on this sort of train that David is making things up in his head anyway. It wasn't the bombshell that I think it was for everybody else. I read some Reddit threads where people were like losing their minds about this dog thing. But I did think it's sort of like just notched a little more in my confidence. Like, I think you're on the right track, Albert. I think David's definitely creating a lot of this from whole cloth. And we're getting implanted memories and created memories and possibly memories he created for himself. We also get a great little diversion. Last episode, we had the whole thing between David and Sid, where they talked about how Sid could change bodies, but she was still herself, right? And the idea of the soul existing independently of a body. And here we have another riff on that theme, where Carrie and Carrie's story, right? The two Carries. And I mistakenly, and I'm still not saying that I think that this is necessarily real, but in last episode I said, well, we're definitely seeing hallucination here, guys, because Carrie goes into Carrie here, and that's not physically possible. And, if David sees that, how does that... Anyway, but it turns out that at least within the reality that we're operating in here currently, that is actually her power. That she is actually a person that lives inside of another person's body. And here again, we're getting this kind of meditation on identity, of what it means to be. As flowery and silly and stupid as that sounds, what does it mean to be, y'all? But I think that is really what the show is ultimately about. It's sort of asking these questions. What is a you? What if you take away the ground of reality, right? The solid rock you can stand on to say, here I am, I'm in this body, I'm in this physical space. What are you? What is left? What is the ego at the center of everything, stripped bare of body and even, a sort of identity beyond just the core of the soul? And I think that that's what this is speaking to. It is an interesting idea, and we see this play out a little bit more later, that, she splits out. She only ages when she's separate from him. I don't know exactly what it all means in the terms of my current framework, which is to say that all of these people are inside his head, except maybe these are all supposed to be signals to the different pieces of him trying to figure out what's going on. Maybe. We also get this ghostly diving suit that shows up in Summerland initially. Then they go down and he's actually he's a ghost, and then he's real. There's actually a frozen diving suited body in the basement of Summerland that the director knows about. And apparently it's her husband. Apparently it's a coffee maker guy. I think that was my impression, was that the guy laying on the frozen slab is the voice of the coffee maker. It's her husband. He's not dead, but he's he can't come back. He's super in stasis or something. And then we get David in the weird mindscape, which was beautifully trippy, and I love how low tech it was. I mean, I'm not trying to knock the special effects, but they didn't go super far to make you feel like it was real. You're supposed to feel like this is a made up world, and so the special effects are just the way they're layered together is a little bit off, and I really enjoyed that. But you see David encounter this same diving suited figure, follows him, goes up this weird circle of ladder of interlooping circles, which I think, well, anyway, I don't know exactly what that means, but it could play into a lot of different possibilities here. Follows him up, goes into, now we're in the ice room from the beginning, right? We're in the room where Jermaine Clement was giving his weird speech. The diving suit guy takes off his diving suit, and it's him. It's Jermaine Clement, and he's the best. I'm gonna say, if I was super happy when he showed up at the beginning, when he comes in now and just it rolls over David with his weird bonkers, I'm gonna put on some music, and it's weird 60s jazz funkadelic stuff. I don't even know. I'm not a big jazz listener, so I have no idea if that's good or whatever, but it's he's listening to it. David's just completely put off by it. Eventually asks him to turn it off, but he drops some knowledge on David about the yellow-eyed demon and what's going on in his head. And he says, listen, you're not, you are crazy. You do have problems. It's not just that you have powers. And this yellow-eyed demon thing, it is in your head, but that doesn't mean it's not real. Okay? It's like a brain parasite that's coming after you. It's not just some manifestation of your own consciousness, which, interestingly enough, I see a lot of people resisting. I've read some of the message boards before I recorded this, and people are like, I think the yellow-eyed demon is some aspect of David's personality. I mean, again, if it's inside his head, possibly, but I'm inclined to believe, the diving suit Jermaine Clement, that this is not David any more than, even though I believe that these are all characters that exist within the one body that is David's body, I don't think that they are all David. I think that they all have independent consciousness and separate souls and identities. And so you see the yellow-eyed demon sort of coming after David. You see him not attack necessarily, but he is getting closer. It seems like he might be able to break through the walls of this place. That Jermaine Clement says, hey, listen, not real unless you let it be real, which is an interesting, we'll see how that plays out going forward. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I also wanted to mention, in the scene where they're but they're talking to David's ex-girlfriend, she's wearing the same earrings, not the same earrings, but like her earrings are those interlocking circles that is the ladder that David climbs. Now, my initial takeaway on this is that it's a symbol that it's all a construct of David's mind. However, the other possibility is that she had those earrings back in the day and he drew from that imagery to make the ladder to climb up. You can pick or take whichever one of those you want. I think the former. I think it's just an indication that all of this is not a simulation, but, for lack of a better word, Inception. Although really well, like the best possible version of Inception you can imagine. And I like Inception, but it was not even brave enough to go this weird. Sid and the gang go to see David's old doctor, and again we get a lot of signifiers that something's going on with. Okay, first of all, when he serves the tea, right? He serves the tea. There's 3 of them there, 2 of them sitting on the couch right across from him. He only serves 1 cup. He asks things like, which one of you is in charge right now? Which, if you've seen Split, you know that there's the idea of, if you have multiple personalities, which he thinks David does, and I think David does, that one of those personalities will be in charge and sort of guiding the boat. So here's my impression of this, is that there's only one body visiting this psychiatrist. I don't know why he doesn't completely freak out. Maybe that's part of the layering of sort of filters that David set up for himself. But there's the one body, and the different aspects of the personality are asking questions and trying to figure out what's going on. We then see that the doctor, and we get like a little hint of this initially, because the doctor's eye shows up as being all cloudy, like the eye, and then it's the eye who's there. Now, there's a couple ways you can take that. You could take that as the eye has the ability to like transport into people through their eyes, or you could take it that the eye was David's psychiatrist all along, but still possibly inside his mind. Again, I don't know how to untangle hardly any of this. And further complicating the matter, we have, again, our sort of black stormtrooper looking guys show up and start shooting up the house. None of the bullets hit the eye. He just walks through, and I mean, yes, you could say, wow, it's cool, looks cool, but it's more than that, because I think that it's all, again, manifestations within David's mind, and that's why he's not getting hurt, because it's not real. It's not like a physical thing. Also, I forgot to mention, I think I went past chronologically, we know now for a fact that some of the memories we've seen that I thought were ironclad, things that I watched in the show, okay, I'm pretty sure this is definitely real, guys. Back with David's real life, turns out Lenny's not real. Or she is, possibly, or not. David's girlfriend, I believe, mentions that he hung out with a guy named Benny, who he did drugs with, and who fits, we see it sort of like swap over all the different shots of Lenny. Now it's Benny. It's this sort of bigger guy. And later on, when David's talking to Lenny, she makes reference to, I don't swing that way. We could do a circle jerk, like things that would imply that she has a penis, because I don't think girls call it a circle jerk. I don't know what they call it, but anyway, sort of like peeling back this veneer that this Lenny character is real, or at least what David thinks that he/she is. I don't know what that means. I don't know where. The interesting thing is, so I believe that these are all things that exist in David's mind, but I don't think he's just making them all up, and I don't know where they're coming from. I won't spoil what I've read about what happens in the comics, but I don't know that we're going to go specifically there, but it does seem like that these personalities might be coming from somewhere outside of David, that they're not just his imagination. But I don't know how Lenny-Benny swapping fits into that. I don't know who Lenny would be and why he would have overwritten Benny in his mind. We do know that, as I mentioned earlier, we got the reference to David breaking into his doctor's office because he told the doctor something that he didn't want the doctor to know. And that image, the creepy image from the previous episode where he's eating all the tapes, implies to me probably that not that he was literally eating magnetic tape, but that he's trying to erase something from the consciousness of one of his aspects. Maybe. Or maybe he was literally eating tape. Point being, he's trying to get rid of evidence of something that he told someone, and we still don't know. There's the question now that's out in the air, what do the stars say? Which is, that famous song from like 2013, blew up YouTube. Sorry guys, I had to do that. But so to catch us back up, the guys attack. Sid and the one Action Carey, get into the fight. The black memory doctor, are sort of embroiled in this attack. Action Girl jumps out the window, does some cool kicks. And it's a great montage. Not only do we see, and we cut in between, right? So we see her doing her action thing with the older Guy Carey sort of in a more silly, less serious way, dancing around doing the same kicks. Like from his perspective, it's like he's just having fun, imagining like, I'm fighting off the bad guys, right? And she's actually fighting it out. And then when they start to get the upper hand, like he's like, it almost played like comedy. I don't know if it was supposed to, but that's sort of how I read it. It's like he's play acting, but it's real to her. But the interesting thing about that scene is that montage is not just cut between those two. We also see Jermaine Clement. All right. He's also dancing while Guy Carey is fight dancing, while Girl Carey is actually fighting. And you get all of these layers of montage happening. I think there's some other stuff as well with David in there. The language of the filmmaking here really leads me to believe that, again, I don't know how you could say that most of this, that any of this is real at this point, really. The language of the filmmaking really strongly suggests to me that these are all at least mirrors or aspects of the same thing going on at the same time, or that they're all at least very connected, the way the montage happens. So that's how I'm going to read it. Okay. That's how it feels. To wrap things up, David meets Lenny in the mind world. Lenny tries to tell him, basically, you need to get out of here. Like, you're staying too long. David tries to get answers. I'm still not convinced. A lot of people think that Lenny is maybe the yellow-eyed demon. But I'm still not convinced that she's like a purely negative aspect of his personality. I think that there is something of her set to protect him. The fact that she's telling him, like, you don't want to know the truth. Don't break down the barriers. Don't, like, let yourself go. She's essentially telling him the world's angriest boy in the world story. She's saying, I'm keeping you away from this. Like, we're gonna, just don't. She distracts him by showing him that Sid has been captured. Of course, we see now Sid has used her power to swap with the Eye in body. Again, I don't know how that fits into my theory. I'm gonna keep watching and see how this all resolves. David goes in, and another almost comical moment where he, like, spawns into the road in front of them. How does he do that? Anyway, probably because it's not real. The van, like, runs off the road into a giant sign that says slow down with the tree, which is just the most, like, cartoonish thing, and it so fits the tone of this. The tone of this is amazing. It's 90% of the reason why this works and can string you along for as long as it does is because the tone is so bonkers and wild and weird. He gets in there, you know, he tries to rescue Sid, but he doesn't know the body swap has happened. Sid, in the body of the Eye, throws, you know, the tire iron, tries to stop the Eye in the body of Sid from attacking David. It sort of all goes pear-shaped. Carrie gets shot, and, you know, we're left that's the end of the episode. We're left with David, you know, dealing with the fact that, you know, now Sid has been inside the Eye's body, and not a ton of answers, although I do think getting inside the mind world, finding out that Lenny is Benny, finding out that the dog isn't real, all of those things are pointing towards a larger cohesive answer. And it's interesting how often the show will just stop and look at you and say, maybe this is what's going on, or very close to it. And it's almost to the point where it's more than a hint. We're just like, hey, not, some of this isn't real. Maybe most of it's not real. Deal with it. I'm Jermaine Clement. I'm talking to you directly. I'm talking to you, the viewer, telling you about the show that you're in. And I'm also going to show up as a character in that show. I don't know. I don't have all of the answers, but I am liking how this is shaping up. I'm liking this weird parable about identity that Noah Hawley is shaping. It's been an amazing ride so far. We're about at the halfway point. It's striking a great balance of giving us some answers while asking new questions as we move along. And despite the fact that we haven't had the big reveal yet, and I was thinking that it would happen earlier, but honestly now I'm not sure it'll be until possibly episode 7 or 8 that we really get a good handle on what is going on, guys. But despite the fact we haven't gotten that, I've not become dissatisfied as I thought I might. I've really been excited with all the new information that we've been given and new visuals. I talk about this practically every week, but I'm just really loving the visual design of this show. The tone, the colors, like the weirdness, the diving suit guy, right? Like just showing up in the middle. He's a ghost, and then he's on an ice slab, and it's weird, and then he's in this weird ice palace that he's created. It's just all so beautifully put together and so purposefully assembled that I can't help but love it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this week's episode of Legion. If you liked the video, please leave us a like and subscribe if you want to see more. We will be doing this all the way through the full 8 episodes of the series. And I'll see you guys next week with another episode of the Legion Recap.